Man, what a show we have had today on this Friday. And this is going to be the norm. What's not going to be the norm is a brand new set that I've been tinkering with, and y'all will see that first thing Monday. All right. So, Monday, we will make the official jump back to 8 a.m. And it will be at 8 a.m. like it was this morning, and it'll be 8 a.m. all the way through. Let's finish this off the right way. There was someone I didn't have a chance to get with last week, and it's my own fault. Not this time.
And now, the transporter to Hades, the reformer of hooker whores, and the bronze god, the one, the only, the legendary Chris Bay.
You see him every Saturday morning on Baseline, and you see him every Friday morning to close the show here. It's the BoomShockalakah. Here's the star there we're in, Mr. Chris Bass, a very dear friend of mine. Good morning, sir. Great to have you back.
Good morning, brother. Always good morning to you, Rainman. Of course, shout out to Cole Johnson, the mad scientist, Wise El Jefe. Always appreciate them always and always being a part of here. And a good morning and / good afternoon, boom shakalaka to you.
Man, it's great to always be with you. And you always say, we let you be you. So be you. What you got for us this week?
Thank you, my brother. Well, first of all, I am delighted and thrilled about the Chicago Sky drafting Angel Reese and Karmilla Cardoso, which is a both in the blue for me because I don't catch too many WNBA games. It's not that I don't watch it, just I don't watch it. I mean, I'm not to be disrespectful. And I've seen some games over the years, obviously, but I don't follow it. But now that they've gotten these two in particular, I got to put in, I don't know if I'm going to go get some tickets because I read somewhere some of the tickets already sold out to some degree, but I will get the paraphernalia, we'll get the cap if they have a large array of garment to fit my fat behind. I will get some shirts and things of that nature, and definitely sign on. And also, Teresa Witherspoon, being the coach of the Chicago Sky, with her legendary pedigree, I think with drafting those two, they put the league on notice.
They did. They really did because the guys and I were talking about it. We reviewed it earlier in the week, and we did a little bit of it today. That the Indiana Fever drafting Caitlin Clark was the piece everybody knew that the Fever needed to rebuild their franchise. And me being close to Indianapolis, the hoopla here was crazy. But also being a few hours away from Chicago when Angel Reese, when Karmilla Cardoso, then Angel Reese were drafted 2 and 7 in this WNBA draft, my phone blew up with all my friends from Chicago saying, "Are you going to do play-by-play for the Sky this summer like you did WNBA last year while you continue to convalesce at home?" The answer is yes.
A hearty yes. Absolutely. And especially when we've now seen the trajectory shift of the WNBA. They need to work on their contracts and give them more money. It is very sad for them. What I think one of the highest contracts was like 73,000, something like that. And look at what the NBA is getting. So we've seen the numbers of how many people were viewed watching the NC2A finals. The women's game, have bigger numbers, eyeballs on the screen. So there's no more excuses these days when it comes to a league and a movement that's obviously taking steam. They had to do right by these players and pay them the market value because we got to change it because the game is changing literally. And we've seen what Caitlin Clark alone, just for her boom to the top and trajectory shift of who she was, playing for Iowa, obviously, and all these people coming forward to watch her play and selling out arenas and the 3-point shot and everything else. I told you, I would love to see in the NBA weekend, All-Star weekend, get anyone, say it's Steph Curry. Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark, let them go at it, or Caitlin Clark versus anybody
Yeah.
from the NBA. I put anybody up there, it will be tour de force to see that happen. And it's not like you can't when it comes to giving the ladies more money. You just won't. And I think there's a travesty to the talent and to the teams involved.
I have a solution. And the Dallas Mavericks were the first team to do this, to put their money where their mouth is in terms of supporting their WNBA counterparts in the Dallas Wings. You got the Chicago Sky with the Chicago Bulls. You got the Indiana Pacers with the Indiana Fever. Just a couple of nearby examples. Man, do you know, even with, especially with Chicago, the Bulls have led the league in sellouts at the United Center for some 20 odd years. Since the United Center opened, it's been sold out. And that was 1994, 95. They can easily put their money where their mouth is to help these ladies get not only more money, they can help them get more advertising. They can help market them toward the women, because when I did some studying earlier in the week, it was the men that usually take in the WNBA games. And I covered the Chicago Sky for 4 years. The only time the women truly came out is when the games were big. Indiana, Connecticut Sun, and all those guys, and they were playing at the Rosemont Horizon. This
Mhm.
can easily be solved. The marketing can easily be solved, and the money can easily be solved. They can do it, but like you said earlier, Base, they're not willing to do it or won't do it at all. And that's sad.
It's beyond that. It's similar to when we talked about the NC2A and athletes getting paid, and now with the NIL and transfer portal. I mean, give me this conversation, and it's similar, if not the same, to pay. And again, like I said before, you just had a good idea about advertisement, things like that. They're not going to miss it. See, this is what gets me about greed. If you just one of them greedy mother hubbards, and you're the person that was back in the day, hey man, can you give me half your sandwich? No, man, get away from me. And then still don't want to share anything.
Mhm.
It's a good looking peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Can I have a half, man? Because I didn't get my lunch today. Oh man, get away from me. And you're still selfish, even to the point of an adulthood. So having said all
Mhm.
that, all you want to do is be fair. Nobody wants to switch places. These people in
Right.
power don't want to switch places because they couldn't handle it, first and foremost. And then when it's reversed and it's done to you, all of a sudden it's a tragedy. So if you're able to have some semblance of doing the right thing, some semblance of a heart, you would do right by these women professional players, because they it's given, it's night in, night out. They do the work. It's hard work and it pays off. Let them get the money they deserve.
Let's talk about the attendance. And the attendance for the excuse not the attendance, the viewership for
Mhm.
the women's game, the Elite Eight in Albany, New York, and the Final Four in Cleveland. 14.5 million watched the Elite Eight, both games, and 14.5 million watched the Iowa LSU rematch. That broke records and put any Elite Eight the men put together to shame. And
Yes.
of course, the championship game, 24 million at its peak watched Iowa battle South Carolina and all of the future WNBA stars just in that game alone.
Yes.
Why can't the women have the same privilege as the men? And that is to play before at least 50,000. And I'll bring up an example we talked about the last time. The Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball team put 55,000 people in an open air stadium. I'm talking about Kinnick Stadium, wonderful stadium. If you could put 55,000 people in Kinnick Stadium, who's to say that you can't put 70,000 in State Farm Stadium in Phoenix, Arizona?
You can. It's just that simple. The numbers don't lie, as they say. You can do it, but again, the powers that be, would you want them to do it? And that should not even be a stalemate or a stopping point. But with some people, and I hate to say it, in 2024 and beyond, you still have male chauvinist people who
Mhm.
believe that a woman should stay in their place. They're lucky they got that. Let them settle with that. And that type of mentality going around in the boardroom. So when you still have that going on, it becomes a complete uphill battle to do what's right by the league and by the players involved and everybody else. Because again, it can happen. At the turn of a dime, it can happen. And it's not
Mhm.
like it's an impossible task. It's a task that they don't want to do. And that's where the whole thing about it becoming sad. It's not even sad, it's just downright petty.
It is petty. I've been a fan of women's basketball since their first Final Four in 1982. The first two was held at the Scope, and every year it's been at an arena. I mean, the arenas sometimes get smaller and smaller. The men,
Mhm.
after 1996, stopped holding them in arenas because they saw the success at the then Hoosier Dome, later RCA Dome, and a couple of other domes. Matter of fact, the first dome that they hosted in was 1982 in the Superdome. North Carolina, Georgetown, the record numbers
I
they
remember
had
that.
there, 60,000. If you could put 60,000 people in the Superdome, and of course they planned it in advance, but that was the first dome they held it in all the way up until they had it at the RCA Dome in 1991. You could have easily moved the women's Final Four from Cleveland to Indianapolis because it's not that far away, and you could put 60,000 plus, if not 70, at Lucas Oil Stadium. You did it for All Star Saturday night. You could do it for the women's Final Four. It would have been an easy move.
It is an easy move. And you harken back to Georgetown, North Carolina. I love that game because that's when I really fell in love with basketball during that time when I was a mere youth and when I had hair. And so to look at all that coming to fruition and watching that game, and yeah, just legendary coaches like the towering figure of the late great John Thompson from Georgetown and Dean Smith from North Carolina at the time. You just know then it was an epic battle. Even if it was a novice, you knew you were watching something special. And the emergence of one Michael Jordan with the last shot during that game. And when you look at it's once again trajectory of basketball, say from the '80s to where we are now, it's a wonderful sport. It should be obviously watched and be a part of and things like that. And sometimes I think it loses its purity because it goes through businesses and everything else. And sometimes it takes the purity out of it. But if you're a pure person at heart, you still watch it because of that purity that's still there for the game itself. And so it's funny you mentioned about, of course, South Carolina. I am so happy that Dawn Staley is getting her just due. Dawn Staley has always been that woman. To see her, and once again, we didn't notice until people found out, or people that, of course, been keeping monitor of her losing her starting five to the WNBA draft. And of course, you factor in, of course, the transfer portal and everything else, had to start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Start all over again, and still went undefeated with a record of what 3 years, what 109-3.
Yep.
Incredible, incredible.
Incredible
And
indeed.
so the woman deserves all the praise. As a matter of fact, they go back to her archives. She appeared on the show Martin years
Mm-hmm.
ago. It was Martin's character, and his buddies going up against her, and I think it was Teresa Witherspoon and Lisa Leslie, people like that. It was fun. It
Mm-hmm.
was fun to watch, and so
It
you're
was.
bringing that back up. So everything that she has done has now come to the point where she's getting her just due. And like I said, for someone, and the list is so long of her accomplishments, one
Right.
thing comes to mind to be the Naismith Player of the Year in college, and then you fast forward to Naismith Coach of the Year, which you're showing the trajectory. Again, that's my favorite trajectory for today, boys and girls, to show that from when she was a player to even to becoming a college coach. The
Mm-hmm.
knowledge she has is incredible. Her motivation that she gives to her players is, I think, unmatched. And yes, she is in the GOAT conversation. She is the
It,
GOAT. She is the GOAT of all time.
she is. She is. And you mentioned her accomplishments, not just as a coach, but as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rare in women's basketball to see those kind of accomplishments from from player to coach. But as you said, the WNBA wiped out her starting five from a year ago. And then she had to start all over, use the transfer portal, do some recruiting. And the next thing you know, she and the Gamecocks are rolling through the season. And then they figure out Iowa and they put the game away in the third quarter to complete. an undefeated season. You know, Tennessee's done it with the late great Pat Summitt, of course, Gino Auriemma with Connecticut, and now you can add Dawn Staley and South Carolina to that list. An incredible accomplishment by Dawn Staley, and she is in the GO conversation as far as coaches go to do what she did. Have the WNBA wipe out a stellar class and then have this team roll through the season undefeated. Incredible. I loved covering this season, not just for South Carolina, but for Iowa, for UCLA, USC with Juju Watkins, and she's going to be a great one. Women's basketball has gone through a renaissance. And if you want to hop aboard right now, this is ground level, even though it's a renaissance. This is ground level. You better hop aboard the bandwagon right now because it's going to grow quickly.
I totally agree wholeheartedly. And there have been speculation, of course, rumors, innuendo about possibly Dawn Staley getting an opportunity to coach, say, back in the WNBA or in the NBA itself. So the NBA thing is tricky because, once again, what I said before about earlier about male chauvinists, and some players don't want to even talk to ladies when it comes to them being women of authority. And you're going to be the head coach, that's going to be a problem. So it shouldn't be a problem because Teresa Witherspoon had done some work with the Pelicans, and you go with others who have done work on teams over the years. But again, you talk about a head coach position. Okay, you can be an assistant and a specialist and stuff like that, but a head coach in the NBA, I don't know. It would be nice because it shouldn't be about the sex. It should be about, of course, the X's and O's and what that coach can do for that said team. I think that would be a marvelous breakthrough for anybody to take a chance on someone who happens to be a woman, but her brain when it comes to basketball is just uncanny. And so you would think we'd take the same and apply it to a team. I don't know. I don't know if Coach Staley wants to make that move. Maybe she's comfortable where she is at South Carolina. I don't know. But for where she is right now, if anybody else was calling to beckon her services, I would at least say, if I was consulting her, at least let's talk to see what they're talking about. But at the same time, just the fact of having a conversation with her shows you the strength and the knowledge she could bring to any team.
One of the names that comes to mind for me in recent memory of a woman who's done some work with an NBA team is Becky Hammon. She was a longtime assistant with the San Antonio Spurs under Greg Popovich. And in fact, for a while, under his tutelage, she was getting ready to be the next head coach. But then when that word got out, when that word leaked out, didn't you notice the NBA kind of step in and quell that and go, no, we don't want that to happen? They challenged Coach Popovich and eventually got him to back off, which is a travesty to me because she's the perfect next head coach for them. So all of a sudden she takes a deal with the Las Vegas Aces, coaches them to 2 consecutive championships. So I wouldn't be surprised if her phone rings again from Coach Popovich to say, don't be the assistant. I want you to be my successor.
Again, that'll be a game changer. And sometimes just have to say, everybody, get out of my way and let me do what I have to do. And sometimes, despite what people think, despite what the NBA thinks and others involved, we're talking about basketball. When people inject, of course, sex and race and things like that, it gets in the way of progress. And again, talking about just the basic X and O's and success rate that a particular person has had. So who's to say they can't install that into a team? And once again, go back to you said before about Becky Hammon, who literally was growing up coach-wise with Pop in the San Antonio Spurs organization. So it's a natural fit. But because of her being a woman, all of a sudden we had to back off and no, we can't have that. And those people bother me the most because you can't separate this from that. It's like the old rap song said, you can get with this or you can get with that, as Black Sheep once said. So you can do that if you want to. People are, I believe, afraid of change. They get maudlin. They like what they are. They don't want to have change. And change is inevitable whether you like it or not. Change will come your way whether you don't want it to happen. But still, that's life. So
it is.
And we talk about getting on board. yeah, get on board the change train, and you just might surprise yourself. So if people like Becky Hammond or Dawn Staley were to get the call to have a conversation about becoming a NBA coach or things of that nature, it's worth the conversation because it's worth the person you're talking to across the table. It's worth it. And again, with these resumes, you got to take them seriously, obviously.
I was listening to Maggie and Perloff on formerly CBS, now Infinity, I beg your pardon, radio network. And Maggie Gray made a great point. When John Calipari stepped down from Kentucky and then later got hired at Arkansas, and the question was raised immediately, who would be the perfect candidate to take over at Kentucky, Maggie Gray said, why don't you call Don Staley at South Carolina? See if she'll A, answer the phone, and B, if she does answer the phone, what are you willing to offer? She made a great point with that when she just said Dawn Staley, and my brain started to turn upside down. Why wouldn't it be a great fit? Why wouldn't it work?
Because again, I said people are racist, sexist, and they don't want to make that move. And you know, in that situation with college guys throwing the boosters, maybe some boosters don't want a woman to come on board. So you got to fight these type of things if that's going to be the play. But if the boosters want to win, and of course that's what they want when they give this money to make sure these organizations like the football team or basketball team, whatever, they want to win and make sure these college coaches, for example, their salaries are taken care of. Look at this woman's resume. Again, going back to that. How can you not win?
Right.
You're going to win something. And just might take you all the way. And what do you mention about John Calipari going to Arkansas? So my beloved Bulls, even though I can't tell you who's on the team these days, but I did watch the game with the NBA play-in versus the Heat. And the Hawks, I'm sorry, they won 131 to 116. They played the Hawks. They're going to play the Heat coming up after that win.
Right. They play them today. They play
I
them
was
tonight.
right. Exactly. I was very impressed by what I saw. They are a knockout team, and I wouldn't mind watching them to see how further they get. The only reason that Coach Billy Donovan has a job, I think, is because of the plan. I think the only reason because he's a glorified NBA college coach. That's it. So when the whole thing came up about University of Kentucky, I thought he'd be a good fit. Yeah, go back to college. You know, so I mean, he's not going to get into the promised land. He's lucked out with this situation. Had it not been for the plan, it just would have a losing season.
Yes.
At least the play-in gives him, I guess, more borrowed time. I just don't see him as the coach going further. He's a good X&O college coach.
Yeah,
college. I mean, and that's just that some people want to make the move to the NBA, and some have and some haven't, and it's a whole different thing. And I'm sorry. I mean, you go back in the day when PJ Carlissimo, who was the former coach at Seton Hall, he goes to the NBA and gets his neck strangled by Latrell Sprewell because you can't holler at a grown man. You can't unless you get ready to knuckle up and guard your grill. It's not like back in college where you get away with that stuff. And it's like the late great Bobby Knight, who at one point was a special assistant advisor to Isaiah Thomas, who was the coach of the Indiana Pacers. Now Bobby Knight knew his lane.
Yes.
As the much fervor in the feet, he knew at 6'6" and 260 pounds from change, whatever, he knew that he would get his clock clean if he became an NBA coach, shouting at grown men. He knew that.
He knew it.
So he stayed where he was. So he could have all that range and domain and hollering at his players, stuff like that. So, and not saying that Billy Donovan does, I don't know what he does to motivate. I don't personally see it, but some people just don't have the move to make college the transferable point to become an NBA coach. I just don't see it with him at all. Not at all.
I don't see it with Billy Donovan either. I don't know how he survived all those years in Oklahoma City with the rift that grew quickly after 2012 between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. And then Kevin Durant leaves. and Billy Donovan is still there, coaching Westbrook, and of course Billy Donovan gets run out of town the year that Westbrook wins the Most Valuable Player, and then Scott Brooks is next. He gets run out of town. Steven Adams gets run out next, and when you see coaches like that try to transfer their college experience to the pro experience, yes, some survive, but then when like you saw with Oklahoma City from 2012 to 2016, that team disintegrated and they turned on Billy Donovan.
Oklahoma City, I think, could have been Golden State had they stayed the course, had they continued on, because that could have been Golden State. They could have been Golden State because, first of all, their IQ, they were the youngest team at one point in the league. I think the oldest person was 26, 27 at the time. They had the wherewithal to really be dominant and keep going forward. And if Billy Donovan was able to coach himself out of college and into the NBA, because he had like a college feel with that young team. So he was kind of like in familiar territory. So had they stayed the course, they would at least got probably 2 to 3 chips. The way they were going, had they stayed the course. Because everybody was young. You can grow with the team. Billy Donovan was a young man. So they would all grown together. And so when Kevin Durant goes to Golden State, again, had OKC stayed the course, they would have been Golden State before Golden State.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But there was one problem. Billy Donovan had to rein in Russell Westbrook fast, especially the year that Kevin Durant had gotten injured, which was the year after Durant won the Most Valuable Player. When Durant's injury happened and took him out for the season, that team became Russell Westbrook's. And if you notice, during that time, Billy Donovan backed off. That was the time he needed to rein Russell Westbrook in. Had he done that, and had they stayed the course, Durant would never have left. Steven Adams would never have left. Serge Ibaka would never have left. Because remember, Serge Ibaka won a championship with Toronto in 2019. But he had to leave Oklahoma City to do it. Instead of stepping in quickly and bringing his team together and teaching Russell Westbrook how to grow with the team and keep the team together, he stepped back and allowed the team to disintegrate.
And the whole thing about that, when you have a team and you have a star player and you built the team around the star player, everybody knows that. They go back to when they were Seattle Supersonics with Kevin Durant. I remember those uniforms. I used to love those uniforms back in the day before they moved to OKC. So historically, he is the franchise player. He's the star. And what happens to someone like Westbrook, you have to know your role. It's not like your role is not great, but somebody got to be Ramen to the Batman. You can't have two Batmans. It is impossible. I mean, even way back, go back in the time with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
Yes.
You know your roles, so you know who to defer to. And the cool thing about what Westbrook could have done was realize his role as Robin. He wanted to be Batman too. So that type of alpha one going back and forth like that is not your team. It was Durant's team. And so, and just real quick to clarify things, even though it was a long time ago, Screaming A. Smith was one of the harshest critics to go after Kevin Durant when he left OKC to go to Golden State, which I felt was unnecessary. So if that's the case, you have to go back to every person that was traded, every person that want to go to another team. So you have to go after Charles Barkley, you'll go after Scottie Pippen, you got to go after everybody who went from one team to another to try to get the chip. And so I just felt like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, why the recent name that you mentioned during that time, why didn't he go after Charles Barkley after 7 years in Philadelphia? He moves to Phoenix. And comes close to winning a title there. Why didn't he criticize Clyde Drexler after 12 years in Portland? He goes to Houston and wins 2 titles there. It's like you said, Base. It was unnecessary for Stephen A to go there with Kevin Durant.
But was amazing because one time Screaming A was on the show and Kevin Durant's mother was being interviewed. And after the interview, she looked him dead in the eye and said, you know what? I did not like how he came after my son. She gave him the riot act. He was like,
Yep.
yes, ma'am. Kept his head down and everything else. And that was a beautiful sight. After that, he didn't go after Kevin Durant anymore. As a matter of fact, if you ever see the documentary Point Gods that deals with all the point guards came out of New York, it's produced by Kevin Durant. And who's in it? Screaming A. Smith.
Screaming A. Screaming A.
Exactly.
Brothers, we got to learn to come together instead of trying to pull everybody apart. That's something I talk about a lot in my series, Diary of a Mad Snowman. That's something I talk about a lot because I am a big time advocate of men's health, men's rights, and men coming together. It's got to happen, especially in the world of sports. We're out of time. Got to bring the boys back to wrap it up. But Chris Bass, always a pleasure. You're a national treasure. I thank you for coming on, my friend. I appreciate it.
Well, look, brother. Like I said before, I told somebody, I was like, "How tall is Brian Snow?" He's 6'12", and there's none damn thing you can do about it. The man knows everything about sports. That's why I call him Rainman. I love you more, man. Always an honor to be here. Thank you for letting me be myself again.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you.
And now, the transporter to Hades, the reformer of hooker whores, and the bronze god, the one, the only, the legendary Chris Bay.
If I was 6'12", that would make me 7 feet tall. That would really ensure my name is Tall Man around the house. And maybe I would have gotten some athletic skills to go along with it. The boys are back to help me wrap it up after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Here's an important message from the Diabetes Solution Center. Do you like pricking your fingers to test your blood sugar levels? No one does, but it's important to maintain your health. And now, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you don't need to prick your fingers anymore. It's easy to use and helps you make more accurate diabetes treatment decisions. If you are testing your blood sugar 3 or more times daily, injecting insulin, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetes Solution Center right now. And if you have Medicare or most major insurance coverage, you may be able to get a new CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurance company for you. If you are testing your blood sugar 3 or more times daily, injecting insulin, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetes Solution Center right now to learn how to end the painful finger sticks and get your own continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
IRS, open up.
The IRS is the most feared agency in the country and has the power to seize assets, garnish wages, and even put you in jail for back taxes and unfiled tax returns. Don't be a victim. Call Kick IRS right now and let us kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all. Our powerful team of tax experts will fight hard for you and will not stop until we've resolved your tax problems on your terms. And if you qualify, we may even reduce or eliminate your tax debt altogether. No more sleepless nights wondering when the IRS is going to come after you. Take control of your tax problems today and make the phone call. We have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we offer a 100% written guarantee, so there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. The consultation is free and the phone call is free. So pick up the phone right now and kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all.
Call 800-807-8188. That's 800-807-8188. 800-807-8188.
SeatGeek is the ticketing app for fans like the high five strangers got, game-winning interception, first down, just a nice solid tackle. If you're in arm's length, you will be swapping skin with this extrovert. You see, he knows SeatGeek got him a great deal on tickets, so he can focus on what he does best, smacking palms. SeatGeek handles the tickets to sports, concerts, and more, so fans can fan.
The original Think Drink is back. Level up with proven ingredients formulated to crush your competition. No gimmicks, no jitters, no messing around. Just high-potency results that keep you moving day or night. There's a new nerd in town, and we came to play. Nerd Focus. Smarter than energy.
Attention, first responders from across the country. If you were in New York to help during the 9/11 tragedy or during the 11 months afterward, and later developed any of these cancers or respiratory illnesses, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. A $10 billion compensation fund is in place for 9/11 cancer victims. Do not wait to file your claim. Call now and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free. Or reach us online at firstrespondersettlements.com.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You may not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs now in effect that will significantly reduce the amount you will owe. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief Hotline now.
Call 800-418-8650. Call now.
During bad weather, driving can become downright dangerous.
What's your emergency, please?
Trust Battle Vision Storm, the revolutionary glare reduction glasses that turn your sight bright during bad weather at night or during the day. Watch your ordinary vision become extraordinary. Battle Vision Storm uses light-optimizing lenses that block blue rays, so you see clearly in heavy rain at night or blinding snow during the day. Heavy rain, snow, sleet, or fog can make it impossible to drive. Not with Battle Vision Storm. Get your Battle Vision Storm for only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs and supply chain shortages, this may be your last chance to get your very own at this low price. There is a strict limit of 4 Battle Vision Storm per order while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-483-6319 or visit battlevisionstorm.com. So call 1-800-483-6319 now.
Hey, Toe Man, we're waiting for you. This is Snowman in the Morning.